Hi everyone, welcome back to another Node tutorial. This one will be a little bit different from my other videos because this one will be kind of long. It's a full-on web application that I'll be creating, and it will be long, so I'll be breaking this into a 3-series video. I don't want these videos to run too long, like 2 hours long or so I'll be breaking it up, but don't worry, we're going to go through it, finish it up, and it's going to be very informative, enjoyable. This is the application that I created right here. This is a simple little restaurant website that I created. It's also a mobile type website. If you expand this, you see like it can collapse like that, and you can view it on your mobile phones. This is a simple website application where you can view the food menus for each restaurant. And I would have this issue every time I would go to either McDonald's, Carl's Jr. or so, and I just want to view the restaurant menus on my phone, and so I would always just Google it up. So I decided, hey, I'll make a simple little application where I can put in all of the restaurant menus, and it's very easy to just click view the menu like that. It pops up, it goes straight to the menu, and you can do this on your phone, but it opens up a new tab for that. And also, this is a full-on website because I have a login. I'm logged in right now. It uses sessions. I can edit this if I want. I can delete it. I can add a new menu. I have a drop down right here. I can log out. I also have a login for this, which I already logged in. So if you click on new menu, you can add in a new menu. You save that. You can edit this. See, I can edit the menus. I can save it. I can cancel, go back out, view the menu, or I can delete it. And I click on delete. It will prompt me if I want to delete this or not. So it's a very simple application that uses a database, and I'm using MongoDB for this. I'm using Node. I'm using sessions, and I'm using bcrypt for the encryption as well for storing passwords and all that. So that'll be the whole application that I'll be creating using Node right here, and I'm going to step you through it very simply. If you watch a lot of my other videos, it's very similar to this, but I've never got into creating logins. And you know, I've never created a whole CRUD application for you guys, so I figured I'd do that. It stands for create, read, update, and delete, and that's what we're gonna do with this application. So if you stay tuned, I'll show you the whole process. Very simple. If you love my videos on how I taught in all the other videos, I'm going to step through it very simply like that, very detailed. And if you stay tuned, you know, I think you'll get a handle on creating a whole website. And also, I'm using Bootstrap for this to pretty it up, so I'll also step through that. Bootstrap, CSS, and yeah, very simple. So let's get on with this project right here. Okay, so we're going to start this project, and I have my little sandbox folder right here that I create all my projects in. And I have this folder right here called Node Express EJS, because this project I'm going to use Node with the EJS handlebars. So what I did was I clicked on this and I dragged it into my Visual Studio Code project here, and it created a blank project for me. And before I start, I always like to do brew update because I'm using homebrew, and then after that I do brew upgrade. So I ran those already, upgraded everything, and I'll show you my current Node version right now, Node-V. And I'm using 17.7.2. For my NPM, here it is. This is for future reference. NPM is 8.5.2. And I read some comments from my previous videos where you couldn't read it too well, so I enlarged my project space here so you can read it a little bit better. So the first thing I'm going to do is npm install express-generator. So this thing will install the Express kind of template for us, where it has all the necessary things that we need. And then the next command is express space -- view equals EJS, because that's the handlebar that I'm using, the EJS. Destination is not empty, continue, yes. So there we go. It created this whole little pre-made template for us where it has the app right here. See, and it added the EJS View Engine for us, so that we don't have to write all this out. This is just the boilerplate for it. And it gave us some other stuff in this package right here. You'll see cookie parser, debug. I'm not going to use these. I'm using EJS right here. It's using Express. Some of these HTTP errors, and then like these I'm going to ignore, but I'll keep it here. Now before we can even run this, it suggests that you run npm install right here. So we're going to do npm install. And what that does is it looks in this package for all the dependencies, and it installs all the libraries for it, because when you do the setup, it doesn't install all of that for you. So you have to run that npm install. Okay, so everything is here, and I'll show you the routes right here, the views, So to even start up this server, you have to do npm start, but there's nothing created right now, so I'm not going to start it up, and it starts up on port 3000. Okay, so let's move along, and since we're using a database with this, I'm using MongoDB. I'm going to step through that whole process right after this, after I set up the MongoDB. So we have to do npm install Mongoose. Mongoose is MongoDB, and I'm also using the .environment. This will help us keep our connection string in, like privately, and I'll show you how to set that up as well. And then we're also using body parser. So those are the main things we're doing for this first part of the project. So let's install that, and you'll know that it's installed when you open up this package right here. See, .env, body parser. So here's Mongoose, and let's go into our app right here, and let's include that. Let's do var mongoose equals require mongoose, and that, like I said, that's MongoDB right here. So we're going to set that up in a minute. We need to include the body parser as well. I'm going to call it body uppercase parser, like that, equals require body parser. And then the last thing is to require the .env environment, and that's how you include that one. And we're going to set that up right now. We're going to do a connection to our MongoDB with the connection string down here. So I'll show you how to set up. This is very basic for the DB connection, and you can find this anywhere on the MongoDB website, how to connect to MongoDB. And it really is like this, mongoose.connect. Now we're calling Mongoose right here because that's what we declared it up here. You know, if you call that DB, then you just say DB connect. So I'm calling it Mongoose, and this is where we're going to have our DB URI that we're going to set up in a minute in the .environment file. And all this stuff is just really basic that we're going to include over here. You can grab this from the website, but use new URL parser is true, very basic. Use unified topology is true. So like I said, this is just like the stuff that you just grab from the site. Right here, I'm going to say then after it connects, we're going to do an arrow function, and inside here we're going to console log it. So that log, and we're going to say DB connected, just to let us know that the database connected. And then we're going to catch any errors on this. Catch if there's an error, arrow function, and we'll just console log the error. Then I close this up and end it. So that is our DB connection string right here, but we haven't set up our connection string through MongoDB yet, and we need to create a .environment file. So let's save this. I'm going to go up here, and I'm going to add in a .env. Inside .env, we're going to include this part right here that we just called DB URI. Okay, so I'm going to copy that, or here, DB underscore URI equals, and this is going to be our connection string that we're going to include in a minute, right, from MongoDB. So we're going to come back to that, and let's just save this. And to call this, actually, you have to say process dot environment dot, and then, you know, the name that we called it in here. So anything that you include inside this environment here, this variable, you can call it exactly like this, process.env dot, and then the variable name. So let's go to MongoDB. We're going to save all this. So here is MongoDB. If you go to mongodb.com, you can create a free account. This is totally free. I don't pay for anything, and it lets you create databases in here for testing. Once you set up an account, you create a database right here. Hit that create, and I created one called node cluster. You can call that anything you want. You can just call it database, whatever you want, but I called it node cluster. I do a lot of node stuff. I'm gonna go in here first and create my database access. So I have these accounts right now, but I want to create a new one, and I'm going to use a password for this. I'm going to call this CRUD for the username, and then I'll give it a password, and it's case sensitive too, but I really suggest auto generating a secure password. It does very well with a very secure password. Read and write to any database. And then the last thing is, this is a temporary user. I'm only going to allow this for 1 day while I'm working on this project. So add user, and there we go. So let's go back to our database. And if you never set up a connection string before, go to this connect on your database here. Click on connect. I'm going to say connect your application. It's the second one here. And you just copy the string right here, just copy it. So I copy this here already. I'm gonna close that. Let's go back to our application here. We're gonna go to the environment, and I'm gonna paste in that string that it just provided us. Now the string here are the important things that we need to fill out. We need to give it the username, right? CRUD. That's my username that I put in. I'm gonna add in my password in a minute here. Right here, my first database. So I'm gonna create a database for this app, and I'm gonna call it like CRUD_menu. So that's gonna be our database I'm gonna set up in a minute. And then I'll just fill this out right now, and then we'll go and create this database. Okay, so back here, so in MongoDB, these are called documents, and there's collections in those documents. So I'm gonna browse these collections, but when you're browsing this, just think of it as creating a database right here, create database, and then these are tables. So this was my test one. I'm gonna create a new database right now. I'm gonna call it CRUD menu, right? And collection name, let's just give it a users right now, create it. And right here, see my CRUD menu, it has the users in here. If I click on this, it's just empty and it has users. So think of this as a database with a table, and the users is a table. And then if I want to create another one in here, I go to this plus sign or create collection right here. So inside these are like documents, and it has collections, right? So I'm gonna create another collection. This one is gonna call menu, create that. And these are just empty right now because I'm going to use our Node application to insert documents, edit it, do all that stuff. So just think of these as setting up a blank table for now. Menu and users, that's all we have. So that's our layout, and that's all we're going to do right in here for now. So I'm just going to exit that and go back to our application here. And then the next step, we need to create a schema. So I'll show you what schema is. We need to create a new folder in here called models. And inside models, I have schemas.js. So let's create that. We have our schemas right here, and let's create our schemas. Okay, so the schema, we're going to do var mongoose. We need to include our database here, require mongoose. And then var schema equals mongoose.schema. Uppercase S, schema right here. Remember, the schema is the database tables that we need to set up, and in there we have a menu, so I'm going to call it menu schema, and that's going to be a new schema, you know, from this name right here. That's what we're using, new schema. And I like to do that so I don't forget. So this menu table is going to have a name, it's going to have icon. I'm going to fill this out in a minute. It's going to have the menu URL, and I'll explain, because I already built this, and I'm going to show you why I added these fields in here. Okay, so if you remember our app here, there's a name for it, like McDonald's. There's an icon for that menu, so I'm going to give the McDonald's icon image. And then there is a menu URL. This is the food menu link, and we need to add that in. And then I like to always timestamp my entries. Anytime I add in anything inside a table, I always timestamp it. So those are things. And then in here, I can tell it what type it is. I think this is by default, but I like to do this. And I'm telling this the name, you know, like McDonald's, Taco Bell, whatever. It's a string, is required. You have to enter in each one of these, and I'm making everything required. So everything is the same. It's a string and it's required. So I'm going to copy that. I'm going to paste it here, paste it here. And I'm going to show you how I'm getting the icon image too for every restaurant. And so that, and then the date is the only thing that's different. This is a type date. And by default, anytime an entry comes in, it's going to timestamp it for us. So that is our menu right here, okay? We have users, so let users schema equals new schema. There we go. Okay, so the users is our login. So to log in, I'm requiring people to have an email. They have to have a password. Just gonna call like that, abbreviate it. An entry date. And so the email, all this will be string and required as well. Everything has to be required. And I'm going to show you how to do this password when we come up to it, because I'm going to use encryption, the bcrypt library. Everything is secure, encrypted. And then this will be the same as this up here for the entry date. And then let's let menu equals mongoose.model, but to declare it here as a model, and it's using the menu schema above with the name of menu. So you see this menu schema, I'm just declaring this as a model right here. Let users equals mongoose.model. This is users, same exact thing. Users schema, users. And I do this because I'm going to let my schemas equals, see, I combine all the models into one. So menu, this way I can use multiple, and then users. I'm combining it into that so that I can export it. So module.exports my schemas. And if you're starting out first time with this, you know, it might seem a little confusing, but the more you do it, you'll get used to it. But the more I do it now, I understand it. You have to assign what kind of like the data types for these, for your tables. You have to assign it, set into a model. And normally, you know, if I could have just did this, if I just have one table, I could have just menu and I just export the menu. But when using multiple, and that's how I found out how to do multiple, by setting up each one as a model, combining them, and then I export that one variable right here, and I can use it all. And you're gonna see how easy it is when I call the schema, and then we just create entries just like that without even going into MongoDB to set up these fields. Alright, so I'm gonna direct our attention right now to routes and views, because I'm gonna create a form right now to enter in the menus. And I'm gonna use the index EJS to show our form right here. Let's see here, I'm going to delete this. So I'm going to create a form action equals method equals post, and then I'm going to have an input type. It's going to be text. I'm going to have a name, and this is our menu name. Have a placeholder equals name, and I'll show you how this looks like. We're going to run our application after I create this form so you can see. So the next thing is the menu icon, right? So icon, and this is, I'm gonna let us know to enter in the icon URL, and I'm using the HTTP address for the URL, and I'll show you how I grab that as well. Everything we're entering in here will be text-based. Maybe in a future project, I'll show you how to drop in files and images and all that, and it saves it to our database or our server. But for now, we're just doing everything text. It makes it a lot easier. Menu URL HTTP, and then we need a submit button. So button type equals submit, and I'm going to say save. Now this is not going to look that great as I'm programming this out right now when I show you the form, but you'll see when I get to the next video where I start doing Bootstrap. I just have this prettied up using Bootstrap pretty much, and CSS and all that. But for now, we're just doing a very basic form so that we can just submit the information, get into our database, and we're going to retrieve it and just show it. So it's going to be looking very basic right now here. I'll save this, and we're going to run this application right now. So npm start is how you run it. Oh, we have an error. So let's go through this. Missing after list. Okay, on my Mongoose connection here, you notice this. I needed to close it like that. So yeah, you're gonna run into stuff like this where you just gotta read the errors. npm start, and then you'll see right here db connected. That's what we want to read right here, db connected, because we got our whole connection string working with the database. Now we can just open up our port 3000. So this is what the full project looks like, right? And this is what it looks like right now. It's just very simple. This is what we created with a form. Name, icon URL, menu URL, and we're just going to save that to our database. So how I got all the menus and everything is I would just Google up like McDonald's menu, and that will go to the website, our full McDonald's menu right here. See, I would go to this website. So I'll just copy this right here, and then I go back here and I go to the menu, I paste that in. That's the food menu. And then we need the icon. I would go back here and I would just right click on this, and what's it, copy image address. So I would do that. And I just paste it in here because every site has an image for, you know, their website. and I just give it a name, you know, McDonald's, like that. And so that's how I would do this to save into our database. But we haven't created the part where it saves it to our database yet. So let me stop the database. So we see right there our database is connecting, our website is running, we have no errors there. So now I need to do this action right here. I want to redirect it to a new page I'm calling menu new. So I want to submit it to a new page I'm calling menu. So let's create that, right? I'll create one here called menu.js. Okay, I created it in the wrong spot, so I'm gonna hold this, drag it into our routes. That's where I want to move it. And if we look at index.js right here, I'm gonna copy this whole thing because we're pretty much using the same. I'm gonna go to menu, paste that in, and within menu, if I don't say new, if I just post it to this menu page here, then I would have to do a router dot post slash like that, and then we would have, it would look like that. Okay, it always has a request response, but I'm not gonna post it to just the menu page alone. I want to post it to new. And you see where I'm getting with this, because as we're working with our application here, I'm going to have something that's going to be edit, there's going to be delete, and so I'm capturing all those. So in here, how do you think I call it, right? It's going to be new, like that. That's how we capture it. Okay, so that's how it works. I'm going to post it to new, and I'm going to capture all this information in there. And like I said, every time you do a get or a post here, there's always a request and a response. There's also this next that I don't use, so I just leave that out. And this is how we capture it. Actually, we need to include our body parser. So in here, I'm going to do a var body parser equals require body parser. This helps us capture those input fields easier. And I'm going to include our schema as well, because we're going to use that. Schemas equals require. Now we got to call where the models folder is, but to go out one, go to models, and then schema. See, it shows right here, .js. Right here, I say let menu name, that was one of our input. It's going to equal request, right here, see, request, dot body from the page body, dot menu name. See, it found it, menu name. Let menu icon equals request, dot body, dot menu icon. See, it's all here for us. Let menu URL equals request dot body dot menu URL. There we go. Now let menu equals schemas dot menu. Now it's a good process to think through how you're going to insert something into the database. I've done it enough where I know what to look for, and the thing is I don't want duplicate menus in our database. So what I do is I'm going to set up a query right here. Query equals name, menu name, and I'll show you what I'm trying to do here. I'm gonna search for results first. Doing a wait on this. I'm gonna wait till we're gonna find one menu in there that matches that name, and I'm gonna use our query. So this is what I'm doing. Our database right now, inside our menu table, there is a field called name, right? And I'm gonna query that database to see if a name exists in there, like McDonald's or Taco Bell, because I don't want multiple duplicate entries. If someone entered in a McDonald's already, then I'm going to ignore that. So that's why I'm searching for anything that matches the name of McDonald's or Taco Bell, whatever we're going to enter in there. It's going to find one. That's what we're calling right here. I'm calling that query. It's going to find it. If it finds it, whoops, then we're going to return the user data arrow function. And all this is going to be asynchronous. Actually, I need to set that up here, because when we're doing an await on it, we're waiting for the process to end. We're waiting for the process to finish up. We need to call it as an async. So in here, I'm saying if no user data, that means it didn't find it. It didn't find our name that we're searching for. So there's no duplicate. We can enter it in now. So you see right here, okay to add menu. And so I'm going to say let new menu equals new schemas.menu. And I'm going to say name equals to the menu name. I'm assigning the values here that we just grabbed from our input form. I'm going to give it that name. I'm going to say the icon, it's going to be menu icon, menu URL, it'll be menu URL. Now all I have to do is just say save, and it saves it to our database. Let save menu equals await new menu dot save. So you see it's searching, it didn't find any entries that matches, no duplicates. We're gonna set up our item right here to insert into the database. We have our item all set up with the input fields, and then we just save it. After it saves, I want to redirect this, so response.redirect back to our home page. It's going to save it, it's just going to refresh our page, and it'll show it to us. So I hope that was easy to understand what we're trying to do. I'll step through it again. Here is our form on our home page, index page. I have input fields, name, there's an icon, and there is a menu URL. So those are our input fields, and I'll show you our input fields right here from index. See, menu name, icon, URL. And then when we submit it, we're submitting it to menu new. The action of this form is submitting it to our new menu page right here, and it's called new. So I'm grabbing the post of it, not the get. Remember, if we're posting, we got to do a post, and it's called new. And then now I'm grabbing all the items from that input from the body here. So I'm requesting it. Menu name, menu icon, menu URL. And then right down here, I'm doing a search because I assigned this menu to our schema in here already. Here's our menu. It's that menu schema. And inside that menu schema, I set up name, icon, menu URL. So we go back here. It sets that up so that I can search it now. It's searching that schema right here that I set up. I'm searching to find if anything matches the name. I'm just querying it for one, find one, and then it's going to return the data for me. And then I'm saying if nothing has returned, if it returned null, that means it didn't find anything. If it did find something, it's going to skip this and just go out, because I don't want to add multiple entries or duplicate entries. And so I'm searching for that menu first. It didn't find it, and so now I'm going to add in an item for it. I'm going to do a new menu using our schema for the menu, and see how it just assigns the name, icon, menu URL from everything we grabbed. Name, icon, menu URL. Right here in here our schema, name, icon, menu URL. So it set that up, and I just call the save on it. And everything is done using the await, which is an asynchronous function. So we have to call async on that. And so after it saves it, does all that, then it just redirects to our home page. So that's how this process works. And hopefully I explained that pretty well. And so right now I'm gonna run this, but I noticed that I left out the arrow right here. There we go. Always look for errors. All right, so before we run our application, we have to go into app.js here and include our menu.js right here. So if we go to app.js, you'll notice that it includes every one of the routers that it sets up. Here's the index router, right? Inside the routes, and here's the users. So we need to create one for our menus. So let's do that. I'm no longer going to use this users, so I'm going to just rename that to menu. So right here, var menu router equals require routes.menu, which is this right here, routes.menu. And then we also have to go down here and tell to use it. We're routing it now. But every time we put in a \menu is using that route. Okay. So let's close up the app. We're going to run this right now. We're going to do npm start. Hopefully it starts up. There's no errors. Okay. Let's go back to our app here. We're going to refresh this. Okay. Everything is good there. And I'm going to enter in the same McDonald's menu that we just browsed through. So what I did was I went to the website. I went to McDonald's, right? And I grabbed the icon from there. And then I also grabbed the URL for the menu there. So let's click on save. And see, we didn't get any errors. So remember, after saving the menu, it just redirects to our index page here. And our index page, we're not displaying anything yet. It just has the menu. But what we can do is we can go to our MongoDB. And I'm going to refresh this. I'm going to go to menu here. And it should have saved right here. Here's our entry for McDonald's. So you see that we got that first part working perfectly already. We created a form, we submitted it, and it saved it to our database here pretty much. So this definitely works right now. And the next thing I want to do is I want to display that menu on our index page here. Every time we go to the home page, I want to show all of the menus or entries that we have in our database. And like I said, wait till the second part. This is going to look a lot more pretty, just like the example that I showed you But for now, we're just doing the simple little skeleton view of it right now. I want to talk about that too on working on projects. When you first start up a project, you always want to make it look really nice. I understand that too. I used to do that when I started. I would always just make it look very nice before even programming it out. And it gave me motivation when I can see something really nice and that I'm working with. I want to tell you, try to overcome that and just build your application first and then add in, just pretty it up after, or at least partially work on it where you can just get it working a little bit and then make it look nice, because you'll finish your project more faster and you'll just work on it way better, because you'll spend all this time on trying to make it look nice and you're not going to actually work on your project. So that was the hurdle that I had at first when I worked on a lot of web applications. I always wanted to make it look nice first, did all the graphics and stuff, and it just took so much time. And then by the time I end up trying to program it out, I was just tired and I didn't have that motivation. So split everything up in half, do a little bit of programming, do a little bit of graphics, do a little bit of programming. And so that's why in part 2 I'll pretty it up with some bootstrap and make it look really nice. But for now, we know that this works. So what I want to do is I want to go to our index.js here. All right, so the next thing I want to work on is our index.js file right here in our routes, and also the index.ejs file, which is our HTML display of it. And so inside of index.ejs, you see how it just renders index, which is this page right here. I want to connect to our database right now. So let's do var schemas equals require /models. There we go. Schemas.js. And right here, instead of just rendering this, let's take that out and let's do a let menu equals schemas.menu, because we're going to connect to our database here and we're going to search for it. So let menu result equals, oh wait, once again, this is an asynchronous function, menu.find. So this is how you query everything in the database. You just keep it open like that. Then when it finds it, it's going to return our menu data. Arrow function. So this is asynchronous. I'm going to convert this into an arrow function. So it's going to say async. And like I said, I never use this next. So I just remove it like that. You can keep it if you want. And that's how I convert it to an arrow function. And then I'm going to take that and render it. So after it finds the data, right, menu data, then I'm going to say response.render. We're going to render the index page, index.ejs. And we'll have a title still, right? And I'm going to call this now menu app. So a new menu application. I'm going to return a variable called data, and that data is going to hold the data from this menu data. So we have to call menu data. And then let's close that up. We search through our whole database. We only have one item right now, which is the McDonald's item. I'm going to save that and I'm going to return it as this data. So let's go to our index.ejs and use this data, everything that it returned for us, because it's returning it back into the index. And then we're going to finally do some EJS programming here. If you see how I did this less than sign percentage, you always have to open it up like that. If data, I'm saying if it's not equal to null, then data dot for each, I'm looping through every item in here. I'm calling it item. I'm going through all the item, okay? So then I always like to just end things first. So I'm going to close it up like this. Okay, I believe that closes up this if statement with this data fetch. So now let's display the icon. How about that? Let's give the icon first. Image source equals, that's how you call an image, right? And inside there, we're going to say percentage equals item.icon, because remember we have a value called icon inside the table, and this is the item right here that we're looping through, item. And right next to the icon, let's give the name, right? So we just say percentage item or equals item dot menu name. I'm gonna break from that, and we're just really just displaying everything like item dot menu URL, just to show that we can grab it. So icon name URL. Actually, I'll keep all this in one line so we just see it. I'm gonna save that. It's not gonna look nice right now as I display this, but you'll see. I'm gonna start it up, npm start. And let's go back here. So as I refresh this home page here, it's gonna show our menu. See how big the icon is. Oh, I called this wrong. It's not called menu name. It's just called name. That's what we called inside our schema. So let's go back. I believe I can have the server running, modify it, and it'll fix it. Yeah, see? There's the icon, here's the name, and then here's the menu URL. So now you see we just retrieved data from our database. We retrieved everything from it. Even though we just have one menu right now, we submitted a form, saved it to our database. And so that's just the first part that I want to cover here on how to set this up, connect to our database, set up MongoDB, submitted a form to save to our database, and retrieve information to display on our homepage here. I'm going to end the video here, and if you stay tuned for the next one, it's going to get very good. I'm going to pretty it up. I'm going to do a lot more, and you'll see how I set up the logins, how I can edit the information, and I can delete and all this stuff, and it'll look really nice. So I'll get rolling on that next video, and I'll have it coming right up. But for now, I hope you guys will practice with this, get better with it, and enjoy this full application that I'm creating right here. That will help you a lot with Node and Express and using EJS. And I really believe that EJS is the better one to use on creating a really powerful web application, or mobile as well, because this one, I'll show you how I collapse and do all mobile with it too. And you can view it on your phone, and it works just great. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and stay tuned for the next one. Code Kai out.